to another exclusive online video review from GradeMyGear.com, your online source for exclusive reviews of outdoor gear and camping equipment. The product that I am reviewing today is this bad boy right here. This is the Coleman Xtreme 70 quart cooler. It is massive, right? This is a big, big cooler. Ironically, the brand pad here that said Coleman Extreme has fallen off, but you can still see that it says 70 quart, holds 98 cans, and this is the 5-day cooler. A couple things I can tell you about this. The top has a place for 4 cans. It has 2 handles on the side that fold up and down. As you open it up, there's a couple things you'll notice about this cooler. One is you can see the thickness of the insulation on this, and I'm going to get into that in a second. But suffice it to say, this is thicker than you're usually used to seeing on a cooler like this. Also has a drain plug right there. Okay, what can I tell you about this? And I'm going to put it down since you can't see me if I keep it up on the desk. Couple things I will tell you about the cooler. This is what the manufacturer wants you to know. That it'll keep ice for 5 days at 90 degrees, holds 98 cans, has these 2-way handles, has 2 inches worth of insulation, and that the limb accommodates 24-inch cords that you can go ahead and put across them. And when they're saying the lid accommodates, you can see right here, see this hole? This is where you would put like a bungee cord with a hook. It's got 2 on the side and 2 on the other side. The idea there is you can put some bungee cords on the top of this cooler to keep something on here, especially if you've got a netting that has some cords on it. I certainly have something like that when I go camping, so it's nice to have that option built in. One of the most interesting things that this cooler has deals with the insulation that it's got. And what Coleman calls it is thermozone insulation. And as I try to be an expert on the products I review, I'm actually going to give you a little bit of information on what thermozone is and why it seems to work so well. What it is it's a type of insulation that's known as a polyolefin. Okay? Polyolefin. And suffice it to say that means that it's a closed cell insulation. And we can get a little bit into what a closed cell versus an open cell insulation means. Open cell insulation is going to be flexible. Okay, it's going to feel almost like a balloon. It's going to be a little rubbery, and it's going to be softer to the touch. That's open cell because it gets its properties. It's an insulation because the air gets into little tiny pockets, little tiny bubbles, if you will, inside that insulation. And when you squeeze it, because it's open cell, that air can come in and come out of those little tiny cells. Think of the cells as just little bubbles. Thermozone, and I guess all polyolefins, or most of them at least, if you're a chemistry major, please correct me if I'm wrong. Most or all polyolefins are closed cell insulation. Closed cell insulation is going to be what you think of usually with insulation. Styrofoam, it's hard, right? It's thick, it usually comes in sheets. They will actually blow some of this into houses now and behind the walls. Closed cell has a much higher R rating, which means it insulates. It will keep heat in or keep cold in, and it's also much stronger, right? It's harder to crush in your hand. It also gives you water, chemical, and abuse resistance, which makes sense if you're making an outdoor cooler like Coleman has. What else can I tell you? It has a very low VWO. I don't really know what that means, to be completely honest with you, but everybody seems to think everybody wants to mention it whenever they're talking about polyolefins. And last but not least, the most interesting thing about polyolefins is that they are CFC, HFC, and HCFC non-existent. In other words, some of the bad chemicals that are causing some of our global climate change, if you will, are chlorofluorocarbons. That's the stuff they used to have in aerosol cans, and then some of their cousins like HFCs and HCFCs. All things that you really don't want to have being produced. If you can stay away from them, that's much better. This thermozone insulation doesn't contain those, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing if you care about the environment. What's amazing about this thermozone insulation is that, and if you've used coolers a lot, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. You would think, right, that, let's just say that this is the average amount of insulation a cooler has. Okay? This right here. That's pretty average. The additional insulation is right here, and there's additional insulation out on the outside. So if you can see my fingers there, right, you're looking at that much total insulation. It is 2 inches. I'd say that's double what you're going to see on most coolers. You would think that if you doubled the amount of insulation, that you might double the amount of time that ice would last in your cooler. And in my experience, you've really got a day worth of ice staying good in most coolers, and I've used a ton of coolers, and that seems to be pretty standard across the board. With this Xtreme cooler, I can honestly tell you that you can keep ice in it. 5 days is pushing it, but you can do 3+. I think I've even seen little tiny pieces of ice still in that cooler after 4 days. Now 4 days is really pushing it, and the main issue you're going to run into if you really want to keep ice in it that long is how many times are you opening the cooler. If you never open the cooler, you probably could keep ice in there for 5 days, even at 90 degree weather. But the whole point of a cooler is that you're going to be accessing it because that's where your food is. That's where most of your cold stuff is. So based on that, don't expect the ice to be in your cooler 5 days after you put it in there. But with normal use, opening it up every once in a while to get a delicious, refreshing beverage out of it, or your food during breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that type of thing, you can literally go on a 3-day camp trip and still have ice in the cooler. That means if you're trying to keep stuff cool, you can go 4 days with this thing if you pack it full of ice the first time. In my opinion, that's amazing. That's a miracle. I have never seen any cooler that does anything like that. I have to thank some of my friends for recommending these coolers, because once you buy one, and they've got a huge line of these in all different sizes, once you get the Xtreme Coleman cooler, you will probably not want to buy any other cooler ever again. Pretty impressive, right? Pretty bold statement. Now, there are other coolers that are even more expensive that have the same type of insulation and have some additional, if you will, features. I've seen coolers that actually have internal battery-powered coolers in them that you actually have. I'm not sure if it's Freon, and in fact, I'll review one of those so you guys can see it. But that somehow actually can keep ice in your cooler longer because it actually has some sort of internal power device that keeps the cold circulating throughout the cooler. But without getting into batteries, without getting into anything crazy like that, these are some great coolers. I'm very happy with them. Based on that, I'm going to give it a B+. The reason why it's not an A is because you're going to have to pay more for this cooler, sometimes a lot more. The 70 quart cooler retails for about $50. I think I paid more than that for mine. So you're going to be spending you're going to spend twice what you would for a cheap cooler on this thing. So understand that the cost is going to be higher, but it's an investment because these things will last years and years, and you're really going to save yourself food spoilage because the ice is going to stay in your cooler longer, which means your food will stay colder for longer, means the food will be good for a longer period of time. So a very positive review on this cooler. I think as they make this model, this type of thermozone insulation, longer and longer, the price will come down. I'd like to see the price lower before I give it an A. But still, like I say, excellent product, especially if you're planning a 3 or 4 day camp trip and you need to keep your food cold. That is my review of the Coleman Xtreme Cooler 70 quart. Thank you so much for watching. If you are on my website, please feel free to look around. We've got a lot of other wonderful information. Please think about signing up for our email list. We give away a lot of the products that we review, so you automatically enter yourself in those drawings. If you aren't on my website, please visit. It's a wonderful place to learn a lot about everything that's outdoor related. As always, I am your main grader, Dustin. This is another exclusive online video review from GradeMyGear.com. Thanks for watching. I hope you watch some of our other videos.